You're right. Yeah,
You
yeah.
need an enemy to
Yeah.
survive.
Yeah, to sort of give you a meaning.
It's
Exactly.
very
You know?
easy to exploit fear in people, to exploit it when there's no.
And it really is a fear. That's one of the things Gardner said very clearly. It's so true. It is a fear-based dynamic. I mean, that fear is what the fuel of it. It drives the child. It drives everything around that, because the alienating parent is really a bully and
Yes.
intimidates. And
Yes.
and what, frankly, you mentioned the feminist opposition to this really uses the same tactics as an alienating parent. I mean, they create falsehoods.
Yes,
They
lies.
get other people to believe it. They make things up and keep saying it over and over again. And you have 2 people saying it, then 10 people saying it. Then if you have 20 or 100 saying it, well, it must be true, even though it's not based on any foundation whatsoever. So there's this hysterical kind of process that you see alienating parents do, and I think you see the people that are in my view, the irrational critics of parental alienation syndrome do the same thing.
I have to make this question, even if it can be a bit uncomfortable, but the feminists, one of the things they say about Dr. Gardner, it's about their tendency, or about he was a pedophile.
Which is the most absurd, ridiculous.
What's the basis?
I think it's just what I described. I think it's this hysterical kind of mythology that's created about him that would stop anyone. If you thought, oh my gosh, this guy's a pedophile. But I think it just got created enough, and enough people that wanted to believe something. But there's absolutely no foundation.
Did he ever had any legal problem
Never.
about pedophile?
Never.
Did he was
No.
ever involved in any case?
But
Did he defend pedophile?
What he did
No.
do, wait a minute, there's another aspect to this.
Well,
is
let me finish this one first.
All right.
And the important point is, he clearly said that pedophilia is a serious psychiatric disorder.
Horrible.
You know, that was
very
yeah.
strong.
So
Dr. Gardner said that.
absolutely, yes. In all of his writing, he said nothing different about sexuality and human development than Freud did.
Mm-hmm.
He said, you know, but it got transformed into all these things that it really wasn't, and then it became a mantra that I think is just
It's
a
repeated
battle cry.
irrationally once and again.
Yes, and then there's enough voices in the chorus, it gets louder and louder, and that makes it sound more.
I think what set
valid.
him up was that before the whole parental alienation thing arose as an issue, he was a premier expert on identifying children who had been molested, and he had written volumes on that subject. So from his writings, I think they were able to extrapolate things and then distort them. For example, one of the things that he said clearly was that if a culture has no rule against molesting children, then people will molest their children. It's kind of a straightforward, logical statement to make. But that particular statement was twisted into if people don't say it's wrong, then it's okay to do. So how they would take something you would say that would be very straightforward and twist it.
I understand.
And then it was tragic.
Oh.
There was some, I can't remember who it was. It wasn't a Spanish Inquisition person. It was a French one, I think, that said, "Show me just one line of a man's writing, and I can find a reason to hang him."
Oh dear. How about a woman? Goes both ways.
Okay, let's say that we have a child that is suffering PAS. Okay, many people is going to watch this video, and many of them are going to be parents of an alienated child. What can we do with him or with her, with this child?
Stay in contact. Stay in contact. Stay in contact. Even if you don't think that your letters are getting through, or your birthday cards, or your phone calls, just continue to do that. And it's really important that even though a child is treating a parent very, very badly, that isn't their true self. That isn't what that child wants to do and never did want to do that. And so their true self has been overridden by this outrageous behavior. But deep down, they really want to know that that parent is there for them and loves them. And if the parent just gets so discouraged and goes away, then that severs that relationship because they won't have any context. So in any way that you can think of, if phone calls don't work anymore, then write letters, write cards, or find ways to somehow stay in contact with that child.
You keep in mind, the child's been taught that parent that they don't see doesn't love them. That they're invariably taught that parent doesn't love them, they've abandoned them, they're defective in some way, and that, of course, the child takes that personally. They take that as being unlovable, that there's something wrong with them as a child because one of their parents doesn't love them. So sometimes well-meaning but misinformed people will advise parents in that situation, oh, don't make waves, just they'll come around, just sort of, and I hear that all the time by well-meaning neighbors, friends, family members, mental health professionals that don't understand this. They will say, well, don't make waves, he'll come around, just sort of back off a little bit and let.
That's a mistake.
It's a big mistake because what it does is feed into that belief that, well, gosh, he doesn't really care, because the child is being told, well, I don't know why your father didn't come. I'm sorry, and really, it's absolutely true. Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
And what can we do with the alienating parent? Let's say you are the father or the mother of a child that's being alienated. What can we do with the other part?
The thing I'm very interested in now is trying to get the courts to do something. I think the answer often has to do with the court, because you have to have a certain authority. You have to have the ability to raise the level of accountability. So I recommended to courts very often that telephone conversations between a child and the other parent be able to be recorded. And so if someone appointed by the court that'll either do one or two things. It'll make the conversation appropriate because the alienating parent knows that they're being recorded, or it'll provide information for the therapist to be able to help the child and so forth. So raising accountability is important, but also having sanctions for the parent and making it clear to the court what's going on. That's the hardest part, because the court goes into this situation just thinking that they're two equally culpable people. These two just can't get along, they can't communicate. So you have to really go out of your way to show the court that's not what's going on. There's one person that's setting it up, and then the other person either has the choice of reacting to it, and then they may look unreasonable because they're reacting to it, or if they don't react to it, then they are guilty of abandonment. So they're in a you have to peel the onion so the court can understand what's going on. And once the court does, what I've found, when the judge really understands, you can see the light bulb go on, and then they sort of begin to respond more helpfully.
I think that you have to keep in mind also that there are 3 levels of alienation. There is the mild, the moderate, and the severe. And in the mild and the moderate, those people can be reached. They still have a rational mind, that they're not obsessed. And in the mild, a lot of times all it takes is somebody to sit down with them, maybe a mediator or a parent education class, to teach them that this child, it's best for you if the child is shared. And this is how to share the child, so to bring some sensibility to it. And the moderate, they go ballistic every time they see the other person. People have a tendency to calm down and finally kind of get a grip, and the heat and the passion of the moment tends to settle down. But with the pathology of the obsessed alienator, it doesn't calm down. They're very disturbed.